Jacob?
Yeah, Shane said he would have to maybe swing by later. He wasn't sure he'd be able to make it at this time. Yeah, I'm gonna go share the streaming link and pick up games.
Okay, it's live now.
Yeah, if it is live, let's see if this works. I'm hoping it's.
It's the thing. Yeah, I've done it before, so.
Is this? Oh, it's unlisted still. Sweet. Okay, sick. Oh, weird. I'm getting that like hearing yourself talk just right, slightly off sync with yourself. Anyway, okay, cool. Thank you to very much for joining me to playtest Storm Riders for the first time. Storm Riders is a World of Dungeons hack, and it's designed to tell stories about similar to the ones you see in 80s cartoons, particularly Masters of the Universe and She-Ra, but also things like Thundar the Barbarian or like even G.I. Joe or something like that. It could kind of work with that as well, although it has more of that fantasy bent. Um, it also takes inspiration from Lady Blackbird, as well as Pasión de las Pasiones, which are some pretty cool games. Um, Concept, I guess that's sort of fitting in there. One thing about Storm Riders is that it's a little bit different from your traditional hack and slash sort of adventure because we're creating a children's cartoon. So we kind of need to follow some rules that you normally wouldn't necessarily have to adhere to at your role playing table. Um, so part of the fun of the game and the challenge is that as we're telling the story, there's this sort of other layer, right, where we're not just the actors. You're sort of the writers. You're in the writers' room, right? You're creating the episodes of the show as we go, which means you might have to deal with the meddling of the executives, of parent advisory boards, those sort of things. So it's sort of an interesting game in that sense where there's kind of multiple layers going on. And additionally, you have another layer, which is your audience. So we're going to create a character, but we're also going to create an audience member. And the audience member could be a child who's watching the show in the 80s. It could be an adult who's watching reruns, just somebody who loves this show, but in particular loves your character and is rooting for them. And basically, we're going to be the way the flow of the game is kind of going to be we're doing the show, you fail a roll, you lose some HP hot points or whatever, right? And you're like, oh, I'm running kind of low. And then we're going to do a refresh scene. And that's where your audience member is kind of reflecting on the show and your character and is rooting for them. And in some way, we're describing how they're being affected by what they're seeing on screen. And that's going to give you a chance to recoup some hit points and things like that. So that's kind of the general ebb and flow of the game. Yeah, so the first step is basically just going to be to create characters, right? If you're familiar with World of Dungeons, you'll see that you're going to be rolling to get attributes. I did make a little modification here where if you roll snake eyes or boxcars, you get higher or lower stats too, which isn't in the base game, so keep that in mind. And there's a rolling room posted in the character sheet on the top left.
Well, box cards give you like +3 anyways.
A +3, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's pretty nice. And with Snake Eyes, you get a -1. So first step will just be to kind of go down the line and roll 2d6 each time to see what the modifier for your stats is going to be. Pat, have you played World of Dungeons or PBTA before? You're kind of familiar with that?
Yeah, I'm pretty familiar with PBTA, but I do have a confession to make. I have not played Wodu.
It's no big deal. It's basically just defy danger or act under fire all the time.
So are we allowed to use physical dice for at least for character creation?
Yeah, use whatever you like. I hear you got some cool gravity dice. I mean, I kind of want to
Yes,
see
I
them
found
look like.
them. Yes.
That's pretty cool. So yeah, just do however that works best for you. That's going to be your first start. And the stats are just your classic strength, dex, constitution, intelligence, wisdom.
So
Charisma.
how does the range work? Like I rolled a 3 on the first one.
Okay.
That's 0.
Okay.
Yeah, so 2 is -1, 3 to 6, failure range is a 0, 7 to 9, mixed range is a +1, 10, 11, success range, that's a +2, and 12, critical success, +3.
Gotcha.
Okay.
These dice don't like me.
Yeah, so what I'm kind of thinking is I'll kind of like explain the game a little bit as we're going
I'm sorry,
along.
Patrick. Your stats are kind of shit.
That's okay because there's actually a
That's good.
class that supports having shitty stats.
The sidekick?
So that's the sidekick. Yeah, so you'll roll your stats, and you're also going to roll for your HP. Now, we're familiar mostly with HP meaning hit points or health points or something like that. So here's the thing. This is a cartoon. People don't really get maimed or injured very badly. They certainly don't die, right? So instead of having health points, we have hot points, and that's pretty nice because it's still the same acronym. But hot points represent more like your popularity, your staying power, your action figures selling power, right? So we're going to roll with that as well, just to see what your current standing is with the audience at large. But generally speaking, like if you're in a situation where if we were playing World of Dungeons or Dungeon World or something like that, and I would cause harm to you, I might instead do harm to your popularity, right? And that can manifest in several different ways. But basically, that's just kind of there for that pacing and rhythm and flow. So hopefully it'll make sense in the fiction.
Do we roll the same thing? Just
that's 1d6 for that one.
okay. I rolled a 2.
Okay. Cool. Hopefully we can
I did as well.
Nice. I do not want to kill you right away. I'll be thinking about that. So
we don't die though.
yeah, you don't die, but you could reach the end of the line. So we'll look at that move if we need to.
We could get written off the show.
Basically, yeah, absolutely. The way that sometimes happen in these cartoons, right, is that either like your production line would finish, or like they would complete your mold and they'd be done, or something would happen in the factory, and you might just get written off the show. But there are options in there too. I got some great feedback from the Codex editing team on how to tune that. So hopefully those will be a little bit better with version 5 as opposed to version 4. Cool. So once you kind of got those stats, we're going to choose a class for our character. A class is kind of similar to a playbook. It's basically one way that your character is represented. And classes have 3 components, which we're going to talk about here. So the first component, this is perhaps not aptly named. Maybe it's a bit too simple, but it's your thing. Your thing is a special object that you have that kind of helps define your character, right? So He-Man had the sword of Grayskull. I'm not sure if that's the official name, but he had that sword, right? And you know, the Thundercats, they had their sword. Lots of people have swords, but it's sort of the thing. Yeah, I have the power, right? That's what this represents. But different classes have different kind of things, right? So breaking down the classes, I'll just kind of cover them each in turn. You have royalty, which could be prince, princess, queen, king, any kind of duke, royal title you'd like. But they have a symbol of their station. So this is like something that you could show people in the kingdom, like, oh, hi, I have the crown. So like I'm in charge here, right? And you have the warrior. You know, this is the classic He-Man, Thundar sort of person. They have a magic weapon. Important to note with the magic weapon, it will never draw blood. So you might have a sword or a battle axe or some mystic bow and arrow, but they'll never draw blood. You know, it's the sort of thing where like G.I. Joe, everybody's shooting at each other, but nobody ever hits. Mages will have a magic focus. This is just an object that helps them channel their magical power. It could be a crystal ball, a wand, a staff, a hat, something like that. Riders will have a mount or a vehicle, right? So this could be your battle cat. This could be your there's that one show where everybody had different like construction equipment as their vehicle or something like that, right? Things along those lines. And finally, there's the sidekick, which is kind of the comic relief character, and they have sticky fingers, which just means that they can use somebody else's thing at any time, right? So this is them accidentally getting a hold of the power sword and using that to their advantage. So the important thing about things, similar to skills in World of Dungeons, I know you're not familiar with that, Pat, but I'll explain that. When you mark a use of your thing, you succeed no matter what. It kind of shifts your traditional 6 minus 7 to 9, 10, 12 up a notch. Okay. So if you roll a failure, but you're using your thing, you're instead going to get a mixed success. It might not be as nice as like a mixed success if you weren't using your thing, but it's still, success with a complication. And if you get if you roll a 12 and you're using your thing, something crazy awesome is going to happen, right? So things ensure success. And you have a certain number of uses of them. Starting at level 1, so to speak, you will have one use of your thing. But you can refresh those, the same with your HP, by doing refresh scenes. Okay? So when you have a class in mind, go ahead and on your character sheet, describe their thing. And when you're done with that, we're going to look at abilities. So these are special traits that are unique to your class. There are 4 to choose from, but you start with 2. Okay. And these just have little different effects depending on each class, right? So throwing out an example here, the sidekick has an ability, comic relief. Okay. So when you fail a roll, every other character regains 1d6 HP each. So that's why that class is sort of one of the ones that's geared towards having bad stats, because if you have bad stats, you might fail a lot. That can be to the benefit of other people. And their thing, as a reminder, is sticky fingers. So that's not really an object that they have, but they have the ability to use anybody else's thing once. So if you're a sidekick and Maria's playing a warrior, you can grab a hold of their axe, right? Or if they're playing a rider, you can jump on their tiger, one time. That's just sort of something special that the sidekick has. So choose from those two of those abilities from those lists and add them to your character sheet. Just copy and paste is easiest. Since I still am making this character sheet fancy.
So the list being where?
Yeah. So, are you? Do you have access to the? Did I give you that?
I don't see the copy of what.
Oh, that's not in here. I've been. I was just like, oh, I bet they're reading along. Hold on here. Let me make sure that this is in the right folder. Oh, it's not.
Yeah, no, I only see the character sheet.
Okie dokie. My bad.
XP, I guess 0.
Yeah, we're starting with 0 XP. Okay, I have now put the copy of the game and the rules in the folder, so you can actually be reading along instead of just trying to retain this information completely auditorily.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, so give those a look over. I feel pretty goofy for that. Okay. Cool. I'll just kind of describe the final part of classes. Each class also has an aim. This is sort of an objective that you as a player have that you try to fulfill each session. If you do so, you get to mark XP, right? So these are different for each class as well. The warrior, for example, their aim is to humble a bully. So if during the session as the warrior you manage to humble a bully, you get experience. The rider, their aim is to promote the value of teamwork. If somehow during the session your rider promotes the value of teamwork, you get that experience point at the end. And sidekick is a little bit different because if you play the sidekick, your goal as a player is to make the other players laugh. So if you manage to do that, you get an experience point. So these are just ways that we incentivize you playing this sort of character a certain way and adding a certain texture to the game based on which one you're playing. So experience, if you manage to get 5 points, you get to, level up, get an advancement. Those are listed down there. Technically, based on the way I've set up advancement, if you are to complete every single objective in one session or episode, then you get to level up. But also, I'm not grading you, so don't worry, you won't be flunked if you don't get them all. Cool. Yeah, so that's like sort of the rules aspects of characters, but one thing to definitely keep in mind too is what this character looks like, what they're like in the show. So you're going to be thinking about not only your character's appearance on the show, but also what does their action figure look like, right? That should maybe even be your first like visual idea of them, is what their action figure looks like. What are they shaped like? What colors do they have? What accessories do they have? Things like that. What makes them stand out amongst the other identical injection molds, right? And from there, you can kind of extrapolate, well, maybe what would they look like in the show then, right, in the cartoon. So you're going to think about character's appearance. And finally, after we've created characters that way, the last step will be to create that audience member. And after you've thought about what they're like as a person, you're also going to write a second aim for your character, which is related to that audience member, right? So, for example, aim to dazzle Jason, or aim to inspire Elizabeth to be courageous, right? Those are 2 examples in there. So that's just how your character kind of relates to your audience member. If you manage to do that, get an experience point. And I'm hoping that none of these things are particularly challenging. It's not necessarily meant to be a very challenging game. It's supposed to be lighthearted and fun, but go ahead, Maria.
What is so where do we put the audience member?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think I was going to put them in gear. Or under notes is good too. Cool. And it looks like we're going to have a warrior and a sidekick. I love it. I think that those 2 classes have a really interesting sort of dynamic. I think that they work well together, so that'll be fun. Yeah, it's giving me, what was that old Hanna-Barbera cartoon that's reminding me of? Oh man, I can Google that. I mean, it's definitely giving me like Thundar and Ookla the Mock vibes, but there's one other show that was classic. The Herculoids, that's what it was. Reminds me of those folks too. So I want to give y'all some time to sort of brainstorm. That's a big old info dump. I'm just going to take like a 3-minute break. Does that work off camera? And we'll come back and kind of see if we made some progress. Cool. All right. One of my favorite things about this time of year is that Aldi comes back out with their spiced pumpkin cider drink, sparkling. So I'm very excited to pop that off with you all for the first time. Happy autumn. Cool. So while we're still maybe putting some finishing touches on those folks, I want to finish my CATS procedure, which I realized that I did not do. So our aim today, I touched a little bit earlier about how we want to be thinking about stats and how we feel about them, if they might be better served to be more specifically tuned to this genre. and also how we feel about a lack of a setting procedure, if that's something that, in hindsight, we would have liked to have, because we're just going to go full steam ahead with our characters and build the world around them as we go. And hopefully I'm aiming to be done by like 2:33. Well, that's my time. So Eastern, that'd be 3:34. And then we'll maybe do some chatting and debrief. Tone, we've kind of been touching on. Is supposed to be lighthearted. I'm fine with going goofy, gonzo, funny, having some laughs today, keeping it lighthearted. That's a great sort of bubbly start to Gauntlet Con for me. And also, tone is going to be dictated in some ways by the rules, because we have the broadcast standards and practices that we'll have to adhere to, which I will touch on in a moment. Subject matter kind of goes hand in hand with that as well. There's certain things that just aren't going to be present in our show. But when it comes to refresh scenes with our audience members, they're living in the real world. So there might be some content that might be present in there that they're dealing with. And I want everyone to feel safe with that. So right off the bat, I want to say we have the X card on the table. If there's ever in the show or at home, wherever there's an element that makes you uncomfortable, say X, throw up an X, enter the X card into the Roll for Your Party room, however you want us to let us know. That's important to me. Lines and veils. For today, I would like to keep child abuse off the table. I think that that's an interesting element of life to explore, something that kids go through, right? And that they might relate to characters in the show as a way to help them cope with that. Today, that's just a bit too heavy of a subject matter for me to touch on. Same with sexual violence and just like abuse. I'm going to keep that off the table today. Veils on sex. Maybe somebody's getting turned on by the warrior. Who knows what's going on? Let's just put a veil on that today. Does anybody else have any lines and veils that they want to put on the table right now? Good for now? Okay. Cool. And of course, we have the open door policy as well. If you need to go for any reason, catch you later. No big deal. Thank you for participating for as much as you have and getting your eyes on it. Even now, if you're like, I don't know if this is a game for me now that you tell me about it, that's cool. I do got to work on my pitch, though. Okay. Cool. So with all that out of the way, as they say on the One Shot podcast, always stuck in my head. How are we feeling about our characters? What do we got? Are we ready to describe them?
I need a look.
You need to look a little bit?
No, like I need to make my look, to write my look, because I have no idea.
Okay. Do you have some ideas, Pat? Is your character more fully fleshed?
Yeah, I'm pretty good where I'm at with Hoynar. Hoynar is kind of like this anthropomorphic hyena looking character, kind of like a gnoll in a way. The pronouns are they them because it's never really discussed in the show whether it is a male or female gnoll. So you don't know. But yeah, it's a basic sidekick character, gets into trouble, probably thinks they're better at what they do than they actually are. Maybe, always gets in over their head. I'm imagining is kind of sarcastic, like Zorak from Space Ghost. Yeah, that's kind of the character I'm going for. And of course, the aim of the sidekick is to make players laugh. And the audience member is Belinda, who watches the show with her son. And the aim for Belinda is to inspire her to get a puppy for her son.
Oh man, I am so down for that. I love this mom already. So tell me a little bit more about this aim, right? Like, Has Belinda's son like been wanting a puppy for a long time, or does she just love Hoynar and their kind of cute hyena face? What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's kind of what it is. I think it's more about the fact that maybe her son is so drawn to this Hoynar character that she might figure it's okay, we'll give it a chance and see how he does with a puppy.
I love it. And the cool thing about aims for audience members is that your audience member themselves or the way that they relate to you can change. So if you manage to get Belinda's son a puppy today, we'll change that objective at the end of the session. But I like that for now. So when we see Hoynar's action figure, right, they're in this plastic box and they're kind of on the shelf at the toy store, right? I'm imagining they have like a hyena head, right? What does the rest of their body look like?
I imagine they got the hyena head and like a little like kind of like walking stick, / staff that they come with. Of course, that's in a separate part of the packaging. And you can place it in their hand. And like Hoynar's wearing a real furry cloak. So like, does it look any different when they're wearing a cloak versus when they're not wearing a cloak? Because they just have this furry body. So I imagine like a long cloak that's like got this big kind of like mane thing on the back. I believe Hoynar probably believes that makes them look like a lion instead of a hyena.
Okay, cool. I dig that. Awesome. Yeah, and Hoynar has sticky fingers, so they're always getting a hold of Brightening. Oh, I love that name. Brightening's magic weapon. So that's going to be fun to see. I see that Hoynar is a little bit more intelligent and charismatic. Those are sort of their best qualities. Is that right?
Yeah. But the intelligence doesn't really show. But Hoynar, has a little bit of sense of what's going on. And Hoynar, even though they might be kind of annoying sometimes, you can't help but love them.
Cool. I am already in love. So with that in mind, Maria, are you ready to present Brightening, or do you want to do some more brainstorming?
I want to present the idea, but also go back and forth.
For sure.
All right. So, Brightening, the Justiciar of Storms is the warrior of the show. I guess he's the protagonist. And his look is that he's in flashy spandex with armor and an ornate spear, because of course he is. His thing is the spear of justice, because of course. Like, just everything is because justice, and like his abilities are savior and battle cry for great justice. My audience member, I'm a bit unsure about, because I was thinking when you mentioned someone might be turned on by the character, is like, I'm not sure. Like, I was thinking, like, maybe have him be an office worker that who loved the show as a kid, but still hasn't come in terms with his sexual orientation, maybe, or like dealing with like feelings of like, am I really gay for this character type of deal, like. And I'm not sure if I want to tie it into Belinda, and if so, what would it make sense if Tom was actually Belinda's son in the future?
Yeah, I think that would be really awesome. Personally, we can have refresh scenes that are either flashbacks to Belinda and Tom as a child, or we could, be Tom dealing with that in the future. How do you feel about that, Pat? Are you comfortable with that? Cool.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
I like that a lot. That gives us a lot to work with. So specifically, your aim, pardon me, with Tom is to help him come to terms with his sexual orientation. Is that right? Cool. That's that's something that like I'm particularly excited about this game because having that sort of open interpretation allows some really interesting ideas to be tackled alongside goofy fantasy science fiction tales, which I'm into that. Awesome. Okay, so we have Hoynar and Belinda, and we have Brightening the Justiciar of Storms, and Tom, the office worker. So when we talk about this the spandex with the armor, right? Are we thinking kind of like Akira Toriyama, like Dragon Ball Z, where they have like the big shoulder pads and then just like spandex leggings, or something else in mind?
Wait, Dragon Ball has spandex leggings?
Well,
sometimes some characters do, I guess. I was
like the
thinking
Saiyans and stuff, right?
Oh yeah, that, but like brighter colors.
Right. Very cool. So does he have like leg armor? I guess I'm asking sort of like, what does Tom find sexually attractive about this children's character, about this guy?
Muscles.
Muscles are big, yeah, for sure.
Muscles are big, and just I have to think about it some more because I think it's also part of the if not necessarily the maybe the show is more about since vaguely because standard customs and practices are a thing in the 80s, but
Yeah.
I think it has to do with since I have humble a bully as a motivation or a name, and maybe it was also a thing that he was bullied a lot in school or something. I don't know.
Yeah, and if you want to change that halfway through, that's fine too. It doesn't have to be set in stone. But I definitely like that we're thinking about these audience members as like real people, right? Because that's kind of the important thing, is relating to them as real people and the things they go through. Yeah. So we'll have some time to think about that, but I'm kind of getting a little bit of a vibe from the characters you've presented. This is more of like a fantasy primarily setting, a little bit less science fiction spaceship sort of thing, although of course those could show up at any time. But we're thinking more fantasy sort of setting in general, right?
I mean, to be fair, science fantasy is a thing. Like He-Man is very science fantasy.
Yeah, He-Man and Thunder are both very science fantasy.
Yeah, I don't know Thunder as well, so I guess, and also Thundercats in a sense, I guess. So I guess science fantasy is a good one.
Yeah, just it's the catch-all, right? Anything that'll get a kid excited, we can throw that in there. Cool. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is roll to see who our primary antagonist is and their plot for today's session. Okay. So I have a table for that, and I will roll if I can find it among my 5,000 windows. Okay, I got a 7, which, according to my notes here, perfect. It will indeed be Minotaur, spelled M-E-A-N-O Tor. And Minotaur is a true bully, which is perfect for our bully Humbler. So Minotaur, she is a very big and imposing anthropomorphic individual. She has the big horns of a bull, and she has this nice nose ring. And I think that her character, we're probably going to come up with multiple characters in this show who sort of have humanoid but furry bodies, and then like an animal head on the action figure, right? So she has this. It's almost like if you took Brightening's mold, but then put on a bull head similar to Hoynar's hyena head, right? That's what her action figure looks like. And I'm going to roll again to see what her villainous plot and playset is for today. Basically, what we're going to be dealing with actively. I got a 9. Oh, the popsicle tray. Okay. So, the sort of start of session move that we have here, it's kind of leaning. It's sort of to help the GM get things started off, right? Let's see here if I can just find it. The agenda of the moves. No, it's in here somewhere. Beginning of session. The start of the episode, the villain will deliver their monologue and announce their plans. This is something that you see a lot in these kids' cartoons, is that the villain just starts off with a scene, sort of spouting about what their plan is, right? And after that, I'm going to choose a character to be the star of this episode. Okay. And that star is going to narrate a scene that explores one of their personal weaknesses. Okay. So the reason why we do that, again, it's sort of following the format of a lot of these shows where somebody's having a hard time and then they learn about, being patient or something like that by the end of the show. Because at the end of the show, we're all going to work together to deliver a message to our audience based on the lessons we learned, to give a moral, right? So got to be thinking about that. I think our star today. Well, let me turn to you two real quick and see who would be more comfortable being sort of the star. That you might end up with a bit more spotlight. You're going to have to narrate this freeform scene at the beginning. Who's comfortable with that?
I'm looking at this at like the pilot of the show, since this is like the first time playing it. So I think Brightening should be the star of the show, since Hoynar is the sidekick.
That kind of makes sense to me. Are you comfortable with that, Maria? Would you like to?
Sure. My question is, how many episodes are each session?
Very good question. I have no idea yet.
Okay.
I have a feeling. My hope is that you'll be able to do an episode or session in like a couple hours, right? But I think it kind of depends on the GM, and that's also one hope of my playtest today, is to see, well, how long would this actually be for? I don't have a clock system necessarily in mind, but one of the broadcast standards and practices that we'll go over is the fact that good always triumphs over evil. So no matter what, the heroes have to win at the end, right? So we'll find a way to get to that point no matter what. And so since we're aiming today to try to be done in another 2 hours tops, right? We'll just kind of keep that in mind as being the end, right?
Okay.
Or maybe earlier if we come to a conclusion.
So another thing is that I noticed that these are 2d6 rolls, if I may say something right now.
Go ahead.
And that means, like, these are 2d6 rolls, which means they tend to skew towards the middle. So like right. Minotaur is the villain who will show up the most. Is that intentional?
So I've made those tables to be 2d6 just because I wanted to make that easier for people, like which dice you have to bring. I personally rolled a d12 to try to get a more even spread. I was just going to re-roll if I got a 1. But yeah, I sort of organized tables where I put like different people towards the middle. That might happen more often, but
okay, that makes sense. Like,
yeah.
Like I wasn't sure if it was intentional to make like Minotaur like the main bad guy who shows up in like most episodes.
Right.
If I could just throw this out there, you could
Yeah.
do a D12 table with a 2D6 table and just say on a one, it's two villains teaming up. It's a special episode.
That's definitely true. Yeah, roll twice. That's always a good addition. Yeah. In the way I tend to do tables, I realize I didn't make it explicit in these, but I usually say roll or choose, right? Like I don't. Some people feel differently about that, but I'm like, just pick one you like too. If there's one that really sticks out to you, today I rolled because that's fun to do as well. But that's a good point, Maria. Thanks for pointing that out. Yeah. So, what do you have an idea of like a personal weakness that brightening might have that we could address in today's session or episode?
Wow. As the pilot. Okay. Personal weakness.
I give some examples here. Clumsiness, a bad temper, forgetfulness, laziness, bickering, foolhardiness, impatience. I could see maybe arrogance as the main character, as a common one.
How about he's too hard on people?
Yeah, harshness for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. So what we're gonna do here, I'm gonna narrate this little scene with Minotaur, and then we're gonna turn it to you, and we're gonna see Brightening kind of being a little harsh on someone, right? And probably Hoynar, and in some way, and then we will move things along towards the issues here, right? Cool beans. Okay, so let me just a second here to envision Minotaur and what their lair might look like, right? Yeah. Cool. Okay. All right. So, we have our opening theme here, right? Where somebody, some 80s aging rock star yells out, "Storm Riders!" Right? And the big words come up on the title screen. And then we have the blue smoke that sort of covers the screen and fades us into Minotaur's lair, right? And the playset, right? This is something you can buy in the stores, Minotaur's lair. It's like a big labyrinth, but it's sort of like one of those ones, you remember those games where you tilt the ball and you have to get it through the labyrinth and try to get to the hole at the end, right? That's what her playset is. But in the center is Minotaur's lair, and she has this big stone throne that she's sort of sitting on, and she's sort of stroking her chin, thinking about how she might finally defeat those annoying heroes, Brightening and Hoynar, right? And she's got one of her minions, and I think that this is another anthropomorphic individual. We'll call them Fang, and they have a black cat head, right? And Fang is sort of a crony. They're sort of hunched over and kind of like rubbing their hands, looking up to Minotaur. Well, boss, what do you have in store for those dastardly heroes? Minotaur, she is tapping her chin. She says, "Oh, I have a good line for this here. Those heroes need to chill out. And I have just the thing to help them." And she kind of gets off her throne and she walks over to this stone wall and pulls a lever. And this stone wall kind of moves to the side. Of course, she had this prepared the whole time. Why not? And you see these 3 glass tubes that are sort of standing up, right? And they have like this sort of metallic base with all these colored lights and sort of action going on. And there's this sort of like you see this like light breeze and fog and clouds coming out from underneath those. And you see Fang, and he kind of grabs his arms and he starts shaking, and his teeth are chattering, and he says, "Boss, that's cold." She says, "Exactly. We're going to chill them out." And now we're going to cut to Brightening, demonstrating exactly how little chill he has. So where do the 2 of you hang out? What's your hangout spot look like? Are you just on the road? What do you think?
I think we hang out in in a mountain, but it's not actually the mountain, in the clouds up on top of the mountain where there's a castle, because of course there is. That's my reasoning for every 80s thing, because of course there is. So Hoinar, if it's okay with you, I want to know what you were doing to piss Brightening off, or to make him mad rather, because sensors.
Yeah, Hoinar is like always around. Like, I imagine this castle is like Brightening's home, and Hoinar is always there. So like when Brightening wakes up in the morning, Hoinar is like in the kitchen, like eating all of Brightening's food. Maybe that's why you're so mad at them this morning.
Hoinar, what are you doing with my food?
Brightening, good morning.
You know stealing is bad.
I'm not stealing. We're friends. Your peanut butter, my peanut butter.
Hoinar, you must ask to borrow stuff from your friends, not go into their kitchen and steal whatever they have.
Hoinar's like munching on this like just huge like peanut butter sandwich. Like, you see the bread, but the peanut butter's like that thick in it. Oh, this peanut butter's so good. Can I borrow some peanut butter, Brightening?
A little too late for that.
Oh, thank you. It's so good.
I'm gonna snatch the peanut butter out of Hoinar's hands. And then I'm gonna put the peanut butter back in the cupboard, I guess. and I pull out this padlock out of nowhere and put it on the, like, this huge big padlock, and put it on the cupboard and just lock that up.
Yeah, Hoinar just like looks like sadly upon it. On the padlock. So Brightening, do you have any tea? It's getting kind of cold outside.
Tea?
Brightening, I think when you go into your cabinet, right, and when you're looking for tea or trying to put away your peanut butter, you notice that like it's pretty empty. Your larder is running pretty short. Maybe because Hoinar's been hanging around with you so much.
No, I thought I had tea, but it's gone now.
I wonder where your tea went. And like the camera like zooms past Hoinar, and you see like all these like empty teacups sitting around.
All right. I just look back slowly.
So I think it might be time for you all to head out to get some supplies. So, Brightening, in this world, when you want food, what do you like to do? Do you like to go and hunt? Do you like to go to, is there a market stall you like? Is there a particular restaurant or someone who prepares food that you like to go to? What is your go-to for food stock and stuffs, for fiddles?
So we're talking about tea, and I'm gonna look at the wondrous locales and wildlife because, of course, uh, where do tea grow? Where does tea grow? Uh, okay. Can you roll 2d6 to figure out where we're going? I guess I'm gonna
Yeah,
do that then. I'll
go
do
for
it.
it.
That's a 9. So the fuchsia savanna of Hush.
Hmm. Okay. So not only does the fuchsia savanna of Hosh have the kingdom's like most renowned tea trees and leaves, right? But they also have uh, Hoynar's favorite dish is local to that area. What is that, Hoynar?
They make a it's like a peanut butter ice cream with uh like little doggy treats, like a little doggy treat bone that's stuck in the top.
Yeah, I think that there might be lots of canine individuals and folks who like to hang out in the savannah of Hosh, much like we might expect a hyena to live in the savannah, right? Um, but it's also a somewhat dangerous place. There are, in fact, the perilous Hyraco sphinxes who, sort of live in that area. So, to put a fine point on that, a Hyraco sphinx is like a sphinx, but they have a hawk's head. So, to put it finer point, head of a hawk, body of a lion. Does that make sense? So that might be something you want to look out for. I think that that's sort of a wild animal that lives out in that savanna. But the plan is that you're going to go there and resupply. Is that the idea, right?
Yes.
So we see you all sort of like preparing to go on this trip. And you said you lived in the castle. Is that right, Brightening?
Yeah.
Okay. So what sort of ways do you all prepare for this journey?
Um, I don't believe Hoynar prepares at all. Just spends all the time just right on Brightening's heels.
Brightening is I think grabbing containers and stuff to put the tea on.
Cool. So like are we seeing like a wagon? Do you have an assortment of baskets that you're
Yeah.
tying to yourself? A classic hobo stick? What do we see here?
Not hobo stick. I because he's too fabulous for that. He just has a bunch of baskets strapped to him.
Very cool. So good. Stick around for the basket accessory now available at your local toy hut. Cool. Yeah, so it sounds like you're mostly just kind of thinking about getting your tea and your food, not really thinking about any troubles that might come your way. After all, you're big and buff and you have a magic weapon. And can you tell us a little bit more about that weapon and what it looks like?
Incredibly ornate spear. It's very pointy and when I held it, I'll often say for great justice it does magic stuff because reasons.
Perfect. So, the two of you are heading towards this fuchsia savanna. Um, And I think the scene sort of transitions to you, walking through there. And of course, you've got all your baskets, and Hoinar is just sort of running circles around you, so excited for their favorite dish, right? And the savannah is normally known for being warm and temperate, right? And there's still these sort of long, light purple grasses that are kind of flowing in the wind. And then there's these sort of different trees sort of just kind of dotted around the landscape, right? And they have these, they're not very tall, but they have these long, wide branches from which grow these great tea leaves, right? But I think we're heading to the town of Hosh, which is sort of this somewhat small village kind of area that the savannah has earned its name from. And there's people there too who will help prepare your tea, dry your tea, and also might have some food for you to eat, right? But we're picking leaves along the way and bringing them to the city, right?
Yeah, I think
so. These trees aren't very tall, but they're still a little bit out of reach for you to get, right? Your arms aren't quite long enough to reach these leaves, and I don't think we've brought anything with us to help gather these leaves. So, what do you kind of do in this situation to gather them and improvise, right?
Hoinar, will you stand on my shoulders and grab that tea leaf for me?
Yes. Of course.
Well, I like the teamwork, but I'm interested to see who is going to sort of have the coordination if this will work out for you. I think we're going to turn this into a role. So typically when we introduce roles in Storm Riders, it's going to be when your character does something that they're either ill prepared for, or if it's risky or dangerous. If you come up with a plan that you have reasonably prepared for, or you're in a situation you're prepared for, or you can explain fictionally how it's justified, how this shouldn't be any problem for you, we're not even going to take that to a roll. Okay. But what can happen with rolls is you can have a failure, or you can have a mixed success. And in either of those situations, I might tax your hit points, right? Just as a way to demonstrate how you have either failed or are under stress or duress or harm, things like that. So you want to be careful with those rolls, because bad things can happen. Not just HB, but also you'll be stuck in a situation that's bad. So you climb up on Brightening Shoulders, Hoinar, and you do feel this kind of an oddly unseasonably cool breeze once you're up here, right? This sort of wafts beneath you and tickles the hairs on the back of your mane, right? It's very odd for the savannah. It's normally a lot more temperate and warm here. I think in this situation that Hoinar might be the weakest link. I'm not necessarily worried about Brightening strength failing him here. I'm more worried about Hoinar's coordination and maybe or maybe in fact it could be Brightenings's temper being the weakest link here. What do you all think is the linchpin here?
I think Brightenings's temper would be a thing if this failed. So it's more like an aftermath thing than the thing causing the thing, I guess.
Cool. I think I'm going to ask Hoinar to roll with dexterity then.
All right.
Your coordination. So that's just 2d6 plus or minus your modifier.
That's a fail. It's a 5.
Good deal. Okay. So go ahead.
I'm gonna activate my saviors to take the consequence of Hoinar's miss.
Okay.
Does that mean I don't get like it's still like the calling relief doesn't go off?
I haven't really yet considered how those two abilities might interact. I think that those are two moves that are really interesting in that way. Okay. My gut feeling tells me that the answer might be no, but at the same time, that could be Brightening having a rare moment of comic relief due to covering for Hoynar. What do you think would be
I think
appropriate there?
depending on how it plays out, I'm thinking that Hoyner, like how I'm envisioning this, and I'm not sure like uh what you were thinking, Mike, as the GM, but like Hoyner fails, Brightening gets really mad at him, and that's what triggers the hard move.
That makes sense to me. Um, yeah. So I think Hoynar, we see you struggling to get up on top and to find good purchase on Brightening's, very ornate armor.
Yeah, I think what I'm imagining is like I'm supposed to be
Yeah.
stepping on Brightening shoulders, but I like step on his face instead.
Yeah, and I think you're pulling his face in humorous ways, and you are about to just all of a sudden just completely lose your footing, right? When Brightening's reflexes kick in and he catches you. But Brightening, you're very distracted in this moment, I think, because like you said, you're about to tell uh, Hoynar off. So go ahead and tell me what you say to Hoynar, and then I'll introduce this issue behind you while you're doing that.
So I'm like, Hoynar, what are you doing? You're muted.
What am I doing? What are you doing? I was almost there.
You're stepping on my face.
Oh, well, sorry, I couldn't tell the difference between your face and your shoulders.
You are allowed to look down from time to time.
But looking down while you're up there is scary. Never supposed to look down.
Grow a backbone.
I do have a backbone.
I think that this is even a moment where Brightening calls Hoynar a mean name.
Well, spineless. That's the only thing I can think of.
You call them spineless. Oh man. So I think we maybe hear the audience members gasp. I think I wouldn't be surprised that both Tom and Belinda are shocked by this in different ways, right? And as a consequence of that failure, I am going to tax you one hot point for Brightening, just as a reflection of you being so cruel that you didn't even notice behind you. Chill wind flutters the grass, right? And we see these 3 glass tubes that we saw earlier, right? But I think they're being transported in some way. We see them moving through the grass, and then they come up and they're placed on the back of a giant lizard. And they're sort of strapped to the back of this lizard. It's like almost like a monitor lizard, right? You know how they're really long, and then they have the legs are like a skink or something like that. But then near the shoulders and neck of this lizard is mounted the dreaded Minotaur. And she pulls out this chrome ray gun, right? And she points it at your back, Brightening. And we hear her cackle before we cut to commercial. Okay. And the commercial is for the brand new Storm Riders popsicle tray toy. And they're trays that are molded to your favorite Storm Riders heroes and villains that you can fill with jello or juice and freeze and have popsicles, right? And then we see Minotaur saying like, ha ha ha, I'm really going to make them chill out or something like that, right? So let's take another quick 5-minute break here. If y'all need one, you ready for one real quick? Or you want to keep going?
I'm good to keep going if
I could keep going.
All right, let's keep it rolling then, right? So we come back to the show after our commercial break, and I think we see Hoynar is sort of maybe on the ground, kind of looking up at Brightening, who was admonishing them, and you can kind of see between Brightenings's legs are kind of framed this shot of Minotaur atop her lizard, pointing her ray gun at Brightening. What do you do, Hoynar?
I think I'm like, Brightening behind you, but like at the same time I'm saying it, I'm like trying to like tackle, like grab his legs to like bring him off his feet so that like, if Minotaur shoots, she'll like shoot over him.
So Brightening might think you're wrestling with him here, right?
Possibly.
So Brightenings's pretty strong. I think that pulling on his legs, you do have the moment of surprise. I don't think that he's expecting you to do this. But we're going to call this another roll. You're rolling with strength, I think, to pull Brightening off of his balance to save him from this stray ray beam. So I want you to roll that, but real quick, I want to talk about these broadcast standards and practices I've been alluding to, right? They're sort of listed here in the rules. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rules that we have to follow in the show. And you can call me out as a GM too if I pull an element that would kind of break these, right? So I'll kind of list them off. They're kind of listed in like order of importance or relevance. Number 1, crime does not pay. Criminal activity, such as theft, arson, kidnapping, murder, or graffiti, cannot be seen as advantageous, nor can it be committed without serious consequence, right? So we're not trying to warp these kids into thinking that freezing people is a good way to get your way, right? So that either can't work or it has to have serious consequences. Good always triumphs over evil. This would have related to that one. Evildoers may only obtain temporary success. Their plans must be thwarted by the heroes by the end of the episode, so mild suspense is acceptable. Which means in this moment, we could have you all be frozen, and transported to, Minotaur's lair to sort of deal with that, right? But by the end of the episode, it needs to be dealt with. Number 3, violence is not the answer. So if at all possible, non-violent methods should be used by the heroes to achieve justice. Killing and bloodshed are unacceptable means of overcoming obstacles. Now, this is sort of a weird paradox that we gotta have in our minds, right? Where we have a character who's a hero, who's mighty and muscular and has this big ornate spear of manhood, right? But can't really use it to skewer people, and should try to humble these bullies without necessarily having to resort to violence. So that is
that metaphor.
Yeah, it's a little bit, it's a little Freudian there. And along with that comes this rule: swords aren't swords. So swords won't be used to cut living beings. Guns don't shoot bullets. They don't maim their victims. They don't draw blood. But there can be deadly weapons as long as they're like used to affect the environment, right? So like you could have a big bomb or something that blows up a crater in the ground, but you can't blow a person up with it. And the sort of caveat to this is that if you have like some robots or some lava men or something like that, you can definitely blow them to smithereens and not have to worry about the consequences of that. which is sort of also like a little bit of a loophole for violence, right? Watch your profanity. Fantastic slangs and curses are acceptable. Maybe you can get away with one darn per episode. No kissing. Holding hands is probably like the most intimate thing you're going to see on screen. And finally, don't do drugs. Just don't do drugs. Okay. So those are the sort of the rules that we all have to adhere to, right? So with that in mind, rolling with strength, what'd you get, Hoinar?
Hold on. I got a 7.
Okay. Very good. That's a mixed success. So that means that you're not going to do well. I will point out you could use a use of your thing, your sticky fingers, to somehow grab a hold of the Spear of Justice to bump this up to a full success, no consequences sort of thing.
I think I'm going to wait for another opportunity for that.
Sounds good. Okay. So you are definitely going to be able to pull Hoinar down. Brightening down. He will evade this. Come on, give me. Freeze beam that flies at him. It strikes the tree behind you, and it's covered with crystal ice and snowflakes and things like that, and starts to fall little snowflakes down on you, right? This mixed success here, though, is that you're now all tangled up, right? The two of you, I think that it's fair to say that Brightening is not yet aware of what's happening behind him. He is fully engaged in a wrestling match with you. So we're going to need to figure out a way to make him aware of the situation, or you might still fall prey to Minotaur. So Brightening, how are you feeling right now that your sidekick Hoinar has, gotten to a scrap with you? You were already pretty mad at them. Yeah, tell me what you're feeling.
Pretty mad. Yeah,
Yeah.
still. So question, how do we do the reflection scenes? Is that like at the end of the episode?
No, that was the next thing I was going to point out to you. Yeah, so we have one of the pieces of tech with Storm Riders are the refresh scenes. So basically, you can kind of call for these any time when you have a quiet moment to rest in the show. That's when we can kind of cut to one of these scenes. And I'll just read the move out to you. When you find a quiet moment to rest, you can narrate a scene in which your audience member finds inspiration from, adoration of, or gratitude to your character and the things that they've taught them. And when you do that, you get to roll 1d6 HP to add to what you currently have, or you can regain a use of your thing. And also, multiple audience members can share this scene, and they can gain the same use out of it, the same benefit. So normally I would say, like, this is a very active moment. You won't really have a chance to refresh here. But also, you're down to 1 HP, and this is a play test, and this is for first time play and learn the rules. So I think we could have a refresh scene here, right? Do you want to frame one of those up?
Sure, let's not have the thing like fall when it's pilot episode. That would
Right.
be very sad.
Let's not die right away, so to speak.
Yeah. So there's some massive innuendo that just happened. So I think Tom watching this while he's older, he realizes this, and it's like, oh wow, how did that get past the censors?
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about this like the location of this, right? Like, is this Tom in his apartment, or
yeah, it's Tom in his apartment watching reruns of the show. Well, not reruns, but like I guess they released a DVD or
Okay.
streaming service of the show, and he just wants to watch it for shiggles.
Yeah. So is this like after work, like Tom's winding down?
Yeah.
Okay, and he's seeing, these characters wrestle and these interestingly framed shots and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So honestly, that's as much as a refresh scene can need, like at a minimum, right? Let's just get a quick shot of people watching the show and liking it, and or feeling things about it, and we can cut back to the action. Or it can be a more drawn out, like interactive scene with multiple people talking, right? So that's what I want to say. Do we want an older Belinda to interrupt this this scene to come in and talk with Tom about this show that they used to watch, or save that for another time?
I don't think you need Belinda to interrupt this scene. But maybe like you see, like imagining the like camera panning over to where the box is sitting for this this DVD of this cartoon series, and like it had wrapping paper on it like it was a gift. And it, there's a sticker on it, says from Mom.
And I think that's enough to give Belinda a bump too. So you all still have your one use of your thing available to you. So go ahead and each of you just regain 1d6 hit points here.
Thank the thank Lord. Yeah, thank the thank Lord, because I kind of need that. One! I rolled a 1! Okay.
We're going to have to explore these feelings more with Tom, I guess.
Yeah, I'm at my max at 2, so.
Well, so there is no max.
Oh, there is no max.
I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, Wodu doesn't have a max. It's just
the max. Sorry.
Well, in Wodu, you reroll and replace instead of gain, but in this one, you gain, I guess, because it would suck if you just lost a hot point from that.
Right. I need to make sure I make a point that. Yeah, new characters have a maximum of 6 HP. Okay. So you just add to whatever you have up to 6. And there is an advancement that lets you get more max hot points as well. Cool. So we're still in that sort of trying area. So feel free to bring up a refresh scene if you have one in mind, again, in a later point.
God, I love how out of this scene it seems that he likes Hoinar better than Burning, and it's hilarious.
Right? So, we cut back to the show with Minotaur's sort of frustrated, you jerks! Why can't you see I'm trying to eliminate you here? You're too busy wrestling with one another. Well, that's just fine. I'll take the 2 of you out at once if I have to. She's ready to raise that ray gun again, but, now hearing the voice of his nemesis, Brightening might be able to snap out of it. What do you think?
Sure, I guess I can do that with my 2 HP.
So when you hear that voice, how do you react?
I think I just snap out of it and grab my spear and I'm like, for great justice, and I fling it at the shit. Sorry, I cursed because I was out of character, realizing that it's a monitor lizard. I can't hit the lizard.
What?
I can hit the pillars. Yes. Okay. Let me hit the pillars with the spear.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say, like, your spear can have some other effect of magical ability, right? Like, I think of the old Dungeons and Dragons cartoon. One of these characters had a bow that shoots arrows of light that wrap around people instead of actually like piercing them. So weird stuff can happen. But I like the idea of shattering these popsicle trays, right? So you're still gonna roll for that, but you're using your thing. So it's definitely going to work, but we're going to see how awesomely it works, right?
Yay, +1 forward for using Battle Cry.
And you get your Battle Cry, and I think this is strength, right?
Strong. So that's 9.
Okay, so we're bumping that up to like a full success, right? There's no complication from this. It wasn't super totally awesome, but you've definitely managed to destroy these freeze capsules, right? So we see your spear kind of flying through and shattering them each in turn, right? And does your spear like fly back to you? How does that
Of
work?
course,
Right.
just inexplicably, because that's how these shows work.
Right. So Minotaur puts her hands on her hips, still riding this lizard, which is like looking around. And I think it's sort of a comical thing. It's like eyes are kind of like googly eyes, like they sort of don't move in sync, and it has like the little slithery tongue sticking out the side of its mouth. So it hears a noise and perks up, and it's like, mm. And Minotaur, she says, "Huh. Well, that was a pretty quick reaction. Brightening. Would have thought we could have come to terms before you went and destroyed my property. Do you know how long it took for my scientists, my super scientists, to develop these freeze capsules? What do you have to say for yourself?"
Sorry. I thought Pat was not gonna say something when.
Oh, no, I was just gonna make a snarky comment that Hoynar would be like, "Those freezers could have been used to make ice cream."
All right. So Brightening's like, the. Let me think how to react. You do not use things for evil to freeze things. You must use them for good things, like make ice cream. Yes.
Well, if you weren't getting in my way, I could rule this kingdom, and I would do many great things. Well, I would have lots of people do great things for me, at least. And your day will come soon. Brightening, you hear me? You will serve me at my feet. For now, I must make my hasty getaway. And she shoots the ray beam at you. And she's attempting to flee.
The ray beam. Okay, time to dodge that.
Time to dodge. Yeah, jump out of the way, right?
Yeah.
Let's see if your hot points get cooled down again.
All right, so I have 0 dex. That's a 9 again.
Okay. I think one part of you is going to be frozen, right? As you try to jump out of the way, part of you gets caught so that we can have cool freeze action brightenings come out in stores, right? Which part of you is that?
The arm that has the spear.
Okay, so does the spear get frozen too?
I think so, yeah.
Oh. Good, Tex. Your hot point there. You're back down to 1. It's a tight moment. Here's what we realized, though. You weren't frozen all the way, but Minotaur is escaping. And she's on a lizard, so it would be hard to catch up with her. And the other thing on your mind right now, too, is the fact that you came here for tea and for victuals, and this tree's frozen. You don't have any tea. One of your baskets is now covered in ice and crushed, right? So you're kind of having a bad day. Where do you go from here?
Hoynar. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Hoynar, what? Sorry. I personally don't know what I'm doing, honestly, but I'm think brightening is more like Hoynar. I seem to be stuck. Can you help?
Yeah. Hoynar, Hoinar, help. And like Hoinar like goes up to Brightening's like arm and just starts licking it like a dog.
How I all right, you do those two does he get more things, or does he get what's it called? XP, or how does he get from that the laugh points thing?
I think that's just at the end of the session.
Oh, at the end of the session, if you
Mhm.
do that, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I definitely think that would be funny for that to work, right? You know, you're licking it up like ice cream, and it's gonna de-thaw, right? And you'll have use of your arm again, and you can still use your spear. Just because you don't have use of that thing doesn't mean you can't like use it. It just won't have a mechanical benefit for you, right? Maybe it'll glow a bit less when you throw it. It's no longer the center of attention with that action. Um, but yeah, I'm kind of wondering, like, how you feel, Brightening, about Hoinar's choice of help. Like, I don't know if that's necessarily what you signed up for.
As long as it helps, I'm fine.
You know, Hoinar kind of saved your butt.
Does it work though? Oh wait, no, he saved my butt. Yes,
Yeah,
and
and this is working
and
slowly
it's
but
working.
surely.
So thank you, Hoinar. And thank you for making sure I don't freeze.
And thank you for having such great peanut butter and tea. Oh, sorry, I drank your tea. Sorry. Figured it'd be time to tell you.
Please tell me these things before you do them or drink them.
Oh, yeah. I'll definitely ask before next time. Um, but I think we should forget about the groceries for now and try to get Minotaur.
I agree. So, question: do we want another reflection scene, or do we want? Because I'm running low on hit points. I don't know if Hoinar hasn't had a reflection scene. Well, he's maxed out anyways. Uh,
Yeah, I think this would be a cool moment for that. I think maybe like our next scene will sort of be you going to confront uh, Minotaur somewhere. Maybe she's gone to the city now to sort of wreak havoc there. Um, we'll probably be able to follow her trail from of like icy an icy path or something that she's left behind. But yeah, if you want to do a refresh scene, do you have something in mind you'd like to frame up?
well, nothing other than it keeps having this double entendres that that just baffled Tom, like licking
The
uh
muscles, right?
the,
And the
not
spear.
just the muscles and the spear, the popsicle. Okay, this is very
Yeah.
and I think I'm gonna frame it so that he calls his mom and is like, Mom, are you aware that this happened in the show?
Yeah, Belinda's probably like, yeah. I mean, but you know, all kids shows can be seen in quite a few ways. You know, it's for kids. Kids don't understand those sort of things, anyways.
Okay, Mom. Thanks.
Well, apparently something from that stuck with you, Tom. You absorbed some amount of that. So let's maybe, if you're okay with this, let's dig into Tom a little bit more, right? You're
Yeah.
like, after work, you're home alone watching reruns of a kid's show.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna shame anybody for that because that sounds like a good time to me.
Yeah.
But does Tom really have like, does he have romantic interests or partners or anything like
I
that?
think he doesn't, and that's like not really because he's spending all his time pretty much alone in his sad apartment watching kids shows.
Yeah.
because he's a nerd and apparently gay.
So I'm just thinking about Tom, having these feelings, that
Mhm.
kind of renewed and reawoken in him. And yeah, who is he thinking about? Like who's whose musculature would Tom kind of want to dig into, like in his world?
Let's call him Charles, I guess.
Cool. So Tom's kind of thinking
Charlie.
about Charlie right now, right? Is that like a coworker, a fellow
Yeah,
gym member?
a coworker. He doesn't go to the gym. What a thumb.
Well, if you want to get that brightening bod, that's what you gotta do. So okay, well we don't have to dig more into that, but like I'm just interested in thinking about putting the name to that face, right? So we've got Charlie on the back burner here. Cool. So Tom's thinking about Charlie.
uh, let
Okay.
me hope I don't roll a 1 again. I rolled a 4, which is much better.
Okay. So yeah, so at another point, if you want to regain a use of your thing, you can just have another refresh scene. Um, yeah, and if you want to tie in Belinda to that as well, you can roll to get some more hot points too for Hoynar.
Max 6 because she's at max.
Oh, so you're topped up. Okay, then
And I
all's good.
think I did tie it in. I tried to at least with the whole calling her.
Yeah, absolutely. That was my idea or my read of it. Cool. So we cut back to the show, and the two of you have put your errands on hold as you're following the trail of Minotaur. And it's a sort of like winding path of like frozen grass out here in this savannah, right? When you hear off in the distance, and then there's this little herd of these little dik-diks, which are like little Australian deer, like little miniature ones with little tiny horns, and they kind of rush past your feet. They go kind of skittering past, and you see off in the distance great wings beating in this, sort of silhouetted against the one of these two purple suns or something out in the sky, right?
All right. Hark! Hoinar! It's Haraka Sphinxes? How do you say that?
yeah. I have trouble saying it out loud too. That's one of the great things about writing.
So I'm wondering. I'm thinking about using my Lassie ability. Does that give like brightening like kind of like a spout lore for the situation? Is that how that works?
Exactly. It's sort of the kind of situation I think about is like a Chewbacca or an Oogla the Mock, where they're just like, oh yes, of course, it's Jimmy stuck in the well, sort of thing. But since Hoynar can speak, what how do they express themselves?
Oh, I
With
imagine
this?
this is like Hoynar like goes from being the anthropomorphic knoll, hyena thing to actually being more like a dog, like like bounds away, looks back at brightening, and like points up at the chimera, and it's like, and then perhaps brightening understands that.
Yeah. So yeah, let's look at this move here, Lassie. Once per session, when you spout a string of unintelligible noises, another player can interpret them and state a fact about the situation at hand. So basically, Maria, this is your opportunity to tell us what it is a fact about these Hyracosphinxes, right? Ideally, one that you can use to your advantage, but you tell me.
I'm thinking that Minotaur upset the Hierarchal Sphinxes, and that's why they're causing chaos right now.
So if you can prove to be an enemy of their enemy, or at the very least their ally, right? Then you might avoid conflict with them. Is that your hope?
Yes.
Cool. So how do you try to express that to them? Going along with this Lassie thing, right? Like,
Yes. Yes.
can you communicate with them? Like, can you speak to them?
Um,
You all tell me because you got
I
that
think.
move.
Oh, we both have the same charisma, so either of us can roll. Honestly.
yeah, I
I
think it
mean,
has to do more with like not really like a verbal communication, but you know like you can tell an animal's in distress.
Sure. So you can't necessarily call out to them and say, "Oh, we are not your enemy." You're going to have to demonstrate that some other way.
Right.
Okay. So what do you
I
do?
think I drop my spear and I'm like calmly walking over to them
Oh, you got your
and demonstrating my stuff there, my
And
friendliness.
I think I'm gonna like see if Minotaur like has hurt them in any way. Like I'm gonna just like kind of look around to see if Minotaur did anything to them to make them act like this.
Yeah. So what I'm going to say here, right, is that you have the fictional positioning to justify this. Yeah, this is a risky situation, but you've got some insight into the situation. So I'm not going to make either of you roll for this just yet, right? So, Brightening, your big muscular arms and forearms and hands are up in a very non-threatening pose. And you see Hoinar as this Heracrosphinx lands there in front of Brightening. They kind of pull one of their wings out to the front, and you see it's covered in ice, right? So they've definitely been hit by Minotaur, and they do look angry, and maybe even still a little bit suspicious. They're very tall, maybe a little bit taller even than Brightening. This is a deluxe action figure that you had to buy from the store, right? That, pardon me, has lots of joints and wings and things like that. And they kind of have some sort of big pointy eyebrows that they're giving you the look here. So what do you do? Who's taking point on this interaction?
I would suggest Hoinar lick the wing.
I think that'd be funny. Is that what Huinar would do? Are you going to be able to overcome your canine instinctual fear?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was aiming for anyways, was to like find any way I could help with these creatures. So, if they're like injured in any way or have anything like frozen or, Hoinar would try to thaw it out.
Yeah, so Hoinar's great hunger definitely comes in handy here, their appetite is able to defrost this large hawk lion figure's wing. And now that that's happened, I think that this beast is seeing you on a different level, right? And this could maybe be an opportunity for you. You have an ally here, Brightening. What do you think you would propose?
I'm gonna ask if will you can you lead us to Minotaur? Maybe take us there.
It kind of like bows its head and lifts its wings up and kneels down below you. It's got these big lion paws and this soft lion body. And of course, we're going to cut to commercial again as we see flying across the screen. Available now, 1995. The Heracrosphinx, and we see the two of your action figures kind of posed on top of it, and like a kid's hand holding it, and kind of goes. That's going to be our scene transition. Cool. So just checking it on time. We're sitting here at 3:20, and our hope was to definitely be done by 4. and maybe even a little bit earlier, so we have time to chat. So I think that this next scene will kind of be the two of you thwarting Minotaur's plans for this episode. I just want to check in and see if either of you need to take a quick break or if we're good to power through to the end here.
Yeah, I'm good to
Good
make it to the end.
It was good too. Okay, so we cut to the next scene as the Heraka Sphinx lands in the center of the village of Hosh, right? And
Sorry, one moment. Let me get my water bottle, and I'll be right back.
Sure, we can do that. Cool beans.
I like to imagine like the scene where you see the beast flying in, like Hoynar's like looks like a dog with its head out the window. It's like, you know, what the wind's blowing like his tongue.
Right.
All right, cool. I'm back.
Pardon my sparkling. Okay. Yeah, so we have this chaotic situation going out here. So since this is a savannah, I'm thinking we're seeing homes that are sort of made with like mud siding, like maybe like Pueblo style, you know, or some thatched roof sort of thing, right? Maybe some like fired clay bricks are kind of used to make the construction here. That's the sort of architecture. And people are running about. We see a mixture of, you know, humanoids, and we see some anthropomorphic beings as well, sort of running about in the background. Some of these homes have big icicle blasts, you know, kind of sent up the side of them. We see a house that the roof is sort of collapsing under the weight of this kind of ice chunk that's on it. And somebody, you know, runs up to you, brightening, and says, "Please, you have to help us. Minotaur is trying to freeze the whole town."
We're on it, and we're going to find Minotaur, I guess.
Last I saw, she went that way.
Thank you. And head in that direction.
So, you know, naturally, I think we see Minotaur is sort of, I think, has abandoned her lizard for this time, you know, and the show doesn't go to any great lengths to explain where it went, but it's no longer relevant to selling that toy. So she's just standing in the center of town and just indiscriminately blasting different homes and just laughing. "I'm going to turn this place into a winter wonderland. It'll be a nice ski cabin location for me for when winter comes. I've been feeling a little overheated lately. And you..." And she points at someone, and they've got like this big clay like urn or jug, right? Which you two know is used for them to make tea, right? And she says, "Bring me some iced tea." And she shoots the jug, and it kind of like comes up and freezes the person's hands, and they kind of waddle over to her and set it down. And then kind of manage to break their icicle hands off free from the jar and run away. And she's just laughing and picks up this jug to drink from, right? So you have a moment where she's kind of unawares. What do you do?
I think I grab the spear and like just yell out, like I'm trying to like mimic Brightening yelling out for great justice, but I can't quite get it right. And I'm like, "For hot tea and ice cream," and I like throw the spear at the other you know, metal popsicle cylinder thing.
Yeah. Well, let's see what Brightenings's reaction is to this, whether it goes well or not. I think might affect what he might say. What do you think, Maria?
I think since the whole theme of the episode is to share and be chill and shit. Sorry, I keep cursing because I am a potty mouth. Yeah, but yeah, that's my take. It's not a big deal now that we're nearing the conclusion of the episode.
Do we want to rewind a bit and have Hoynar ask for permission first?
Sure. Yes.
Oh yeah. Hoynar's like really, really like meekly asking, Brightening, can I see your spear for a second?
Of course. And I give it the
And Hoynar's face just like brights up. And like you see them smile. And then just goes ahead and does that before for hot tea and ice cream.
Yes. And because you're using your thing, I'm not worried about you failing here. So we're going to definitely complete our objective of thwarting a foe. So go ahead and roll, though, because I do want to see how awesome this goes. Because if you get a 10 plus, it's going to be even better than if you'd gotten one anyway.
Actually I did get a 10 plus. I got well it's a 10, so
cool. I think
Actually,
I
I
would
didn't
have
need to
added
step it up.
strength here, which I think is flat for you.
yeah,
Right.
0.
Yeah, so the spear goes, it shatters the urn, right, and douses Minotaur in tea, and she's all wet, and her hair is all sopping wet, and she says, "Oh, you two! I wonder, like, help me out here with this. Like, what might be Minotaur's like go-to insult for you do-gooders?" Maybe she calls you cow pies or something. I don't know.
Cow pies on school.
Oh, you cow pies. I'll get you back for this. Just you wait. And she sort of whistles, and the lizard comes and she jumps on and runs off, and the whole town is laughing, and we see Hoynar going around to every frozen thing and licking every house and getting as much ice cream as they could have ever wanted. And how is Brightening rewarded by the town? I'm imagining being showered in tea, but what else?
Yes.
What else does it get out of it?
Well, the admiration of Hoynar, I guess.
Yeah.
Newfound appreciation of Hoynar.
Cool. I think that's a perfect resolution to the episode, but there's one more thing that we must do at the end of the session, which is work together to deliver an important message to our audience, right? This is the sort of the more you know sort of ending that we see here, right? And I think so. Brightening was the star of our show today, and we looked at his weakness of being harsh. But I think we also learned a little bit about Hoynar and sharing. So I'm thinking maybe the way we frame this up is we start with Brightening talking about the importance of being nice to your friends, but Hoynar bringing up how you want to share too, or something like that. What does that message look like? Hey kids, Brightening here.
Remember, kids, being nice to your friends. So be nice to your friends so they're nice back to you.
And just because they're your friends, don't mean you have the right to any of their stuff. Always ask.
Storm Rider! Okay. That was a fantastic episode of Storm Riders. Thank you both so much for helping playtest this and participate in this, and for having a very fun story. I had a great time. Let's go ahead and break down these end of session questions and see how much experience points we want to rack up. So we're going to go end of session. We delivered our message. Did we thwart an evil plan? If so, mark XP. And I've noted here that this is a given because it's mandated by the broadcast standards and practices. So yes, 1 for that. Did I experience failure and learn from it? If so, mark experience. I definitely, this is sort of like when you fail a roll, mark XP, right? So I think we saw that Hoynar failed, but then Brightening took the consequence from that. but we both
Okay.
learned. What do you think?
So I could see
Did Hoynar learn from a failure?
I could see Hoynar learning that brightening is truly their friend.
Yeah.
I think if you can if you can frame it as, did we learn the important message, or did the character learn the important message of the day? So like, I guess in that case it would automatically go to the star, but I'm not sure if you want to go that way or if you want to just reward experience for failing a role.
That's a good question. So, yeah, and this is some feedback I got from David about this too, about like maybe adjusting some of these triggers, right?
Mhm.
And so one of them was like based on did we learn a lesson, right?
Yeah, you could have something like maybe did the character learn or express or teach a valuable lesson.
Right. Did I learn or teach a valuable lesson today? I think that's what I'm going to change that to. And I think you both did, which we saw with the message delivered. So this might be a bit of a given also, but at the same time, I kind of like it. Yeah, I'll make sure to send a note for fixing that before it's published. Hopefully.
It's a cartoon, not a hardcore OSR, so it's not like you can't level.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, to be fair, with OSR you can hack away anyways.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's like the whole point, right? Cool. So this one ties into what you were saying, Maria, about the star. Did I overcome a personal weakness or help someone overcome theirs?
I think it's redundant because you already have the fail, the did we learn a message and stuff.
So do you think I should maybe just cut that one out?
Yeah.
Okay. No experience points for you then. What have you done? Okay, cool. Let's talk about aims. Did we complete our aims? I know Hoynar and Pat, you definitely made me laugh today with your antics. So I'll definitely say you should earn experience for that.
I did not humble a bully. Hoynar did.
Yeah.
But I did help Tom get into terms of his sexual orientation, I think, because that was all the point of every reflection scene. So I get an experience there.
We really drove that point home. I liked that.
I'm sad that we did not get to see Belinda buy Tom a puppy.
Well, that's what I was pointing at. Like if I ended up doing a refreshment scene, what I would have done is, even though it's not showing like Tom actually getting that puppy, like perhaps the reason he's so lonely is that puppy actually had just passed away.
Oh.
And that's why he got the present from Mom, because she felt bad for him. It wasn't like his birthday or anything.
My heart, my freaking heart.
Like, the dog was old by now because, Tom's older.
Oh, yeah, of course.
See the
Pat, you're killing me.
picture on the fridge. I'm going to retroactively give you experience for that. Cool. Yeah. And then finally, did my audience member grow or change? If appropriate, rewrite the relevant aim. So this isn't necessarily more experience, but this is the time for us to reflect on our audience member and see if our aim is different for them. It sounds like Tom's still working some things out. And Belinda, she apparently made that decision to buy that puppy.
I think her new or the new aim for Belinda would be to accept Tom for who he is.
Very cool. Man, that's so heartwarming. I'm so happy that we got that sort of character development out of this session. Cool. I'm very pleased with that. Okay. Yeah, so we got some experience points. And I'm gonna maybe fiddle with those triggers a bit with your feedback, which I appreciate. So if you guys are cool with this, maybe we can pivot towards feedback on the game itself. If you guys, just like want to read it over and send me ideas, you can do that too. But based on your experiences today, there's a few things I want to talk about. So directly addressing the stats. How did you feel about Classic 6 D&D stats? Not
I
into
think
it?
not into it because we didn't like. For example, con never gets used
Mhm.
because there's no reason for con to exist in this setting. Uh,
I would like to see them as more cartoony type stats. Like, maybe something like flash or action, or
I had 3 in mind. And I don't know if 3 is enough or if 4 is better, whatever.
to be
But once
fair,
it came to my
3 is
mind,
what Breakers has. So
right. I love a good 3-stat system. It's super, super clean for me. Because I feel like of the 6, like each could be broken down, could be like molded into one. So one I definitely thought was power. Power is an important idea in these shows. I have the power is the classic line. Um, you know, helping kids feel empowered is important. So seeing characters who are powerful, I think, is a pretty common one. Another one I was thinking was heart. You know, um, a character who shows heartfelt emotions, who shows passion or care. Empathy is really important. I see definitely like
the ring, the Captain Planet, the power of the element of heart or whatever it's called.
heart, right? Yeah, for sure. And then I was thinking wits to just reflect a character who uses intelligence or quick thinking, things like that to resolve a situation. Um, yeah, but from your game today or a future session that you might be a part of, what sort of names for stats do you think you'd like to see out on the board?
I think those are way better than just rehashing the
Yeah,
uh,
I like the body and the heart, or like instead of wit, I would probably go with something like mind.
brains. Oh,
Oh,
mind. Yeah, mind.
mine.
I
Yeah.
yeah, I agree. Like the I really like the separating stats by body, mind, and charm. Like, and that's a good way to do it. And
Mhm.
like in this case, instead of charm, it's like heart, but it's practically the same thing in this case. So
Cool. Yeah. So power, heart, and mind. Yeah, that sounds like it'd be like some trio that puts their power rings
Mhm.
together and transforms.
It's definitely a more type thing.
Yeah, right. And don't forget,
with some
use
courage
your
and,
mind.
and power because Zelda.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Other point I wanted to touch on. How did you all feel about not having a concrete or detailed setting before we went into things? Did you find yourself kind of lost at the beginning?
Well, because of the setting itself being, cartoons, and more specifically 80s cartoons. Like if you think of Thundar and He-Man, yeah, you saw some familiar things in that, but like every show it was something different. They were like somewhere else, and there wasn't like a map that you knew exactly where the characters were at all the time. It was, all pretty much abstract. You knew what planet they were on, and that was about it. You knew Castle Grayskull, and then everything else was just, it could have been anywhere.
Yeah, and to be fair, the settings are pretty much interchangeable, I guess, because for example, if you compare He-Man and Thundercats, they both take place on a planet that has fantasy and space elements, because of course. So,
Mhm.
and not to mention that Shira is literally just He-Man, but for girls. But so
Yeah.
so it's literally the same thing, but for girls. So
Mhm.
Cool. Well, I didn't want to necessarily. I want people to be able to kind of like kick things off with a bang and not feel like they're just lost. Like I said, without that setting to ground them. But it
Mhm.
sounds like because things are so. Today we're in the lava place or whatever, and today we're going into the jungle. It can be so random that people are okay with that. Cool. So I won't spend too much time like trying to develop a set of procedures for that. It looked like the tables they worked for me. as a GM, so I was pretty happy with those. Cool. Any other feedback you might have, Pat? Did you have anything that was kind of burning at you, or you really wanted to express?
Nothing was really burning. I think with less stats, um, just getting more dice on the table. I saw, you said that bring like a heavier consequence in this game than you would like a normal PBTA game because they're going to succeed at the end anyways. So you might as well hit them hard in the middle. I thought that was a good piece of advice you had written in there.
Do you felt like I followed through on that today? I'm really terrible with giving hard consequences, so I love to hear this stuff.
Yeah, not so much. Like I would like to see how the failures affect their audience member. I guess in a way to tie it in.
Well, yeah, that's definitely a great bit of advice, for sure.
Yeah, like for me, I don't think the failure should be a thing in, or like a hard consequence in the fiction as much as. Yeah, I agree with Pat because we're not playing to find out what happens in the show because we know what happens in the show. Good wins because standards and practices, but we are playing to find out what happens to the audience, which I think we should play to that more.
Well put, Maria. And I think I may have stated so much in the GM agenda and moves, and I might just not have successfully thought of that when it came time. Again, it could be it is a little bit more challenging. You're kind of asking a bit more to have people's brains be operating at so many different layers. Yeah, I would definitely recommend anybody watching this, if you ever run Storm Riders, follow Pat and Maria's advice because that's a great way to play.
Yeah, I just think it sings so much to, instead of focusing on the show, it's more how the characters of that show affect the characters in real life, or the audience characters, and I really enjoyed that part. Like when Maria did all those refresh scenes, those are just great.
I'm sorry, my chair just broke.
Oh shoot!
Yeah.
Didn't you just get new furniture too?
No, I got the furniture from the move.
Okay.
But I do have a chair that I'm gonna get set up tomorrow or sometime today. I don't even know anymore.
Okay.
I think tomorrow, but I do have a spare chair, so that's not an issue. It's just that I'm standing right now and I need to replace my chair. So
I myself need to stand up for a little bit and walk around. So thank you all for participating. Maria, did you have any feedback that you wanted to share? I know you're in a
not that we already haven't stated.
Okay, cool. And definitely feel free. Pat, you're on Slack too, right?
Yes, I am.
Hit me up. Send me a DM or something if you have more thoughts or ideas you want to share with me. This will be published in Codex Joy 2, which is coming November 1st. So there's not like a lot of time for edits. I'm probably going to have the final draft in by the end of GauntletCon, but I'm going to take notes on what you all said.
Like do before the end of GauntletCon? Actually, the 20th is usually when they have final drafts.
Yeah, Jason just told me it's going to be a quick turnaround, so I don't think he gave me the full ultimatum, but I kind of inferred from that I better get on that quick if I have any changes. So I'll probably submit, hey, we're just going to change these stats names real quick, and let me just change these triggers around for the words. I think that'll be okay, though.
Yeah, okay.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Everybody, and the broadcast here.